Okay, should I pull my money out of the stock market now? Let's talk about this one. At the time of this taping, we have tariffs that have been put into place. And the president, our president of the United States, had his Liberation Day in which he implemented many tariffs. And now we have a situation where tariffs are on. There's large tariffs in some countries, specifically in China. Other countries, I think there's a blanket 10% tariff. Now with China, the tariffs have been taken off of certain electronics, from what I understand, cell phones, I think, and computers. It's hard to keep track of what tariffs are on and what tariffs are off. So there's a lot of uncertainty in what's going on with this tariff situation right now. And so the markets are reacting to that. We had a sharp downturn in the market, and then we had somewhat of a recovery, but there's still these jitters in the market. There's this uncertainty, and there's one thing that markets hate. Markets hate uncertainty. Markets want to have the certainty of what's happening in the future. Now, you may not have 100% certainty, but markets absolutely want some level of certainty to continue to perform well. And we do not have that certainty in especially this tariff situation. There's just not certainty. Now the federal government is talking about nations that have come to talk to the White House right now, and there's some of that going on. I certainly do hope that the White House is able to make some tariff deals and that things move along. But here is the, if I can call it, rub. These situations, at least in history, take time, months, years, to actually make these deals and to have them flesh out and actually come to some sort of conclusion that actually has traction as far as trade with these other countries. And so there's a high probability that we're going to have some time that we have uncertainty in the markets, that we have difficulties within our economy. This is a reality that I think will definitely be here for us for some time. Months, definitely, probably years. So this is where we find ourselves. So the question at the beginning of the video is, should I pull money or my money out of the stock market? Well, let's talk about this. We have to look at what is it that you're trying to accomplish by even being in the stock market. And for many people, I think the goal should be, at least, to build wealth into the future so that you can retire, or at least transition if you're not thinking of it in terms of retirement. I like to think of it in terms of gaining control of what you do with your life. What you do as far as work, or if you plan on not working, you just get control of your finances so that you're able to control your future. But for many, you do need to look at retirement and how you're going to retire with dignity, how you're going to be able to sustain yourself once you reach an older age, to where you can't work the same way with your hands and maybe even your mind that you could when you were younger. So a lot of investing is getting ready to take care of your older self with the resources that you have when you're younger, and when you may be stronger and able to work and actually get revenue, and then you want to transfer or turn that revenue into assets that can then take care of you when you're older. okay? So that's the basic goal for many, or it should be, in my opinion, okay? So now I'm gonna get into some more specifics about the stock market in general. And I am not a financial advisor, so I really can't give you financial advice. And even if I was a financial advisor, specific advice is kind of harder. You probably need to sit down with someone and have your full situation hashed out. But what I can do as an individual is to give you my critical thinking and my perspective and what I would do in these situations, and kind of how I think about things overall when it comes to the stock market and investing, okay? Now, given that you're looking at investing or being in the stock market as a way to build wealth into the future, to either retire with dignity or at least gain enough control to where you can transition into working part-time or looking at some endeavor that you want to do, maybe starting a business or something like that, or at the very, very least retiring with dignity, having an income, a monthly income that takes care of you in your retirement. If that's what you're doing, then I think you should look at a long-term investing strategy, okay? Really, it doesn't even matter what's going on. And I know that it's scary, what's going on with these tariffs. I know that it's uncertain out there how the stock market's going to perform or how the full economy is going to perform with everything going on. But if you have a long-term vision and you're looking at things long-term, what I like to do is just to look at history, okay? And look at something like the S&P 500. Now, I've talked about in earlier talks how the S&P 500, over its track record, and the 500 companies that are in the S&P 500 have been there since the 50s. I don't remember the exact date, but that's when the 500 companies that we kind of see in the S&P 500, the top 500 companies here in the U.S., was kind of formulated. So we have a many, many years of track record. At least, 60 to 75 years worth of a track record of the S&P 500. Let's just say we can solidly say 50 plus years. So having that, you're able to look at a long track record, and over that track record, you're looking at right around a 10% return that the S&P 500 has afforded us over so many different things. You're looking at many, many different historic things that have happened, that have been big things in history. I think about the past, looking at some old clips of children in schools, huddling underneath desks and things like that because the possibility of nuclear war. And so a lot was playing on the psyche of the American people. And the stock market was going through challenges because of things like that. If you kind of fast forward into more modern history, you look at 2000, the dot-com bubble, where people were investing in anything that had .com behind it. And then you had a crash where the stock market went down, okay? And that happened in 2000. 2008, we had the whole financial crisis where people had home loans that they should not have, and those loans went bad, and those loans were bundled up into the stock market. I won't go into the specifics of it, but the stock market crashed at that time. So you had a huge crash in 2008, a financial crisis. Fast forward, well, actually look back at September 11th, the terrorist attack. And that caused some serious problems with our economy and caused the stock market to crash. So all of those things happened. And then more recently, the pandemic. And we saw a stock market kind of crash there and then recover. But through all of those points in history, this S&P 500, which is a good representation of our total stock market, has had a 10% return. So think about that. And sometimes people will say this time is different. This situation is different. Well, as I look over my lifetime, it is a little different in that basically this administration and maybe even one person has made the decision to have these tariffs, and that's kind of created this instability. So it might be a little bit different as that, but that's what people say every single time there is a challenge in the economy or a crash in the market. This time is different. I'm going to suggest to you that it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that this time is different. What will most likely happen during this time is that, yes, we will have a transition. We may have a tough period. And I talked about how you need to get your finances together. You want to make sure that you have an emergency fund. You want to make sure that you're taking advantage of what you can, like a company match at your work and something like a 401k. You want to get rid of consumer debt like credit cards. You want to take those steps, okay, and do those things to be able to weather a storm, because it looks like a serious storm is coming. But when you look at history and all of the different things that have happened and how the market has performed at about a 10% clip, despite all of these challenges, then it's logical to say that this point won't be different. Because history has shown that though the market goes through dips, it recovers. And you want to be there when it recovers. One of the things that I do during these types of time periods is I look around me, okay? This is just a little tip, a little thing that I use to kind of calm myself when markets go through a dip or a crash. I look around. Are people still using their devices, their phones, okay? And think about it. What company probably has the most phones? Not probably, definitely has more people using their product when it comes to cell phones. It's Apple, okay? And I've noticed recently that throughout these tariffs, people have still been typing on their phones and looking at things on their phones and even ordering things online, e-commerce, through their phones, paying at the check stand. I work at a great grocery store, H-E-B, here in South Texas, and people are paying with their Apple Pay. So that tells me that the company was still viable, even if it dipped some with this tariff situation, okay? I look at other companies like Walmart. Walmart's kind of our competition, but they have a store across from the store that I work at. People are still going in and buying things there, all during this tariff situation. People are still going to fast food places like McDonald's that are in the S&P 500. So I look at these things and it kind of helps me to gain perspective. Okay, that over the long haul, at least from my perspective, what I do is I look at this and I believe that these companies are going to continue to innovate and continue to work on things. Okay, they're going to continue to try to get better. And if they don't, other companies are going to start up, create things, and create solutions to our current problems, and they're going to slide up into the S&P 500 as other companies fail. J.L. Collins calls that the self-cleansing property of index funds. And that's really what I recommend, index funds, like an S&P 500 index fund. Let me give you an example here that might make some sense. The very streets that I'm walking right now were flooded just a short time ago. The Rio Grande Valley had a historic amount of rain here recently, and some homes even flooded. And so there are folks who are cutting the drywall out of their home and it's being stacked up on the side, on the curb, because these folks have gone through a flooding situation. And it's devastating, okay? It's really tough because these homes all over the United States are very, very expensive. $400,000 plus on average throughout the United States. And so, one, people can't even afford a home, but when you have a situation where you have a flood, it is double a financial hit, okay? So there's two problems, okay? We need affordable homes, something that anyone can afford, and we need homes that are durable, that can get through these situations. Well, there are folks now actually looking at how to create homes that are highly affordable and that are durable, that can get through weather situations and so on. Now, I live in South Texas. Near where I live is Starbase. Elon Musk has SpaceX. And one of the things that Elon Musk has done, you know, love Elon Musk or hate Elon Musk, he's looking at the housing situation. And he has these like little tiny homes that are made out of sustainable materials that are highly inexpensive. I think the base level is $20,000 something, like $25,000. That is a huge discount from the average $400,000 plus home. So there are folks thinking through this and making it out of durable materials and things like that. And they're built in a, how do I put this, like a modular production kind of way to where it's simple to set it up once you get it on site, and they're like interchangeable parts. So if certain parts of the home fail, you certainly can order and get that part or that wall or whatever it is put in. But what I'm saying here is that there's going to be entrepreneurs and people who look at whatever our current reality is and project what our reality will be in the future. And there's going to be entrepreneurs who meet us wherever we're at and provide products and services that will serve us at that time. A $400,000 plus home may not serve the future worker. They may not be able to afford that. But they need a home that is durable, reliable, and affordable. And there's going to be entrepreneurs that fight that fight to come up with the innovations and come up with the things that serve the customer. And those companies are probably going to end up being in the S&P 500. Now, Elon Musk and his company, Tesla, I think it is, that this housing plan with these little tiny homes that are highly affordable, I think it's under the Tesla flag. It'll either be him and his Tesla company, or it may be another company, okay? But whatever that company is, they're going to serve this particular example that I'm giving, and they may be a highly successful company that ends up in the S&P 500 and doing very well. And there's other companies and other industries, and from food, you know, like restaurants and chains and things like that, to companies that are in technology and so on, will continue to innovate. And personally, I believe in the innovation and technology of the United States. You have to decide whether you believe in that or not. But the point is should you pull your money out? No, I don't think so. Have a long-term vision, okay? And in a future video, I'll talk a little bit more about how to look at your risk tolerance and maybe have some mix of stocks and cash equivalents like bonds and things like that to balance out a portfolio to where you aren't going through the wild swings of the stock market. But think about it as a long-term thing, that innovation will continue to innovate, and that you can have a positive upswing by hanging in there, getting through the dip, which you're buying more good assets at a discount, and then when it recovers, you even have more wealth. I hope that this helps to gain a little bit of perspective with the tough time that we're going through right now, okay? Now, I never like to close a video without actually talking about subscribing to the channel. Subscribing to the channel will help YouTube to see this information and actually get it out to others. Give it that thumbs up, okay? And hit the notification bell so that you know when I'm uploading another video. Thanks again for listening. This one was a little bit longer, but hopefully it is a helpful video. Thanks again for listening.